Okay, picking back up where we stopped with the movie question, we need to answer part C. It says, how many new movies and games will the store have in week 6? So let's look back at our notes. And how can we figure out how many movies they'll have in week 6? Chloe? Yeah, put the 6 in where the W is in the function. So I'm actually going to go on the back of my paper. And this is going to be movies continued. So at 6 weeks, movies will have 7 times 6 plus the 2 they already had. So they're actually going to have a total of 44 movies. Now what about the games? How many, what was the games function? Do y'all remember? 3W. So all we have to do is put in the 6. See, this is where writing that, going ahead and writing that equation, even though they didn't ask us to, is going to help. So after 6 weeks, they'll have 44 movies and 18 games. All right, now let's keep looking at the examples. This is talking about Jesse and Juan's savings accounts. And if you look at the different, this is a table and a graph. So they're not giving us equation this time. They're giving us the table and the graph, and you have to figure out what the function would be. So let's look at Jesse's savings. How much is he saving each week? Right, $5 per week. And how much did he start with? Right, if we go back to 0 week and we subtract 5, 0, 0. So $5 per week started with 0. Now look at the graph for Juan's savings. How are we going to find out how much he is saving each week? This is going from week 1 to week 3. So we might have to do our slope formula on this one. So you can, but see the y is not counting by ones. So you have to be real careful with rise over run if the y and the x aren't counting by ones. It's just easier to come over here and do 26 minus 22, 3 minus 1, and you end up with 4 over 2 or 2. So he's saving $2 per week. What did he start with? How do you know he started with 16? Right. You can see, guys, that's the y-intercept. That's the initial value or the starting point. So your y-intercept is your starting point. So look at what it says under here. Jesse's savings can be represented by the function S equals 5W. Do you see how that goes with this? When there's no y-intercept, it's always going to be a direct variation equation because you're not going to have a plus or minus anything. And after week 8, Jesse will have $40. Juan's savings can be represented. Look how this looks different. There's the $2 per week plus 20. This is a typo. That should be 16. So change that 20 to 16. Because if it was 20, the graph would have started at 20. So after week 8, Juan will have, if we plug it in, and this is going to be 16 instead of 20, so that's going to make this $32. So make sure you fix that. So Jesse will save more after 8 weeks than Juan. So there's a little bit more work when they give you both a table and a graph instead of an equation. Let's look at this moving one down below. This one's real easy. It says the cost to rent a truck from 2 different companies is shown. Which company should you use if you plan to rent the truck for 20 miles? So how much is it going to cost from Ron's Rentals at 20 miles? $50. It tells you right here in the table. So $50 for 20 miles. What about looking at the graph over here? 20 miles would be right here. And if I follow it up, it's going to be this point right here. it looks like for each 10 miles it's going up 5. But let's make sure. Let's find the rate of change. So 45 minus 35 over 30 minus 10 is going to be 10 over 20, which is 1/2. So that means for each mile, it's 50 cents per mile. Right. Plus the 30. Well, look right here. Look at the y-intercept. There is a $30 fee. Look at the y-intercept. This one, it's going up 25 each time, right? So if you go backwards to 0, this is going by tens. If you go backwards to 0, there's no fee for Ron's Rentals. It's just a straight $25 every 10 miles, right? Which would be what, $2.50 per mile?
Yeah, but when it's 10.25, would that be less than 10.35?
It is. It is.
Would that mean Ron's?
But we're doing 20 miles. See, the rate of change isn't the same in both, so you can't compare 10 and 10. But look at this one. If we figure out that if it's going up each time, this point would be 20 and 40. So here would be the $30 fee plus 20 times 50 cents, which is $10. So it would be $40 for 20 miles. And guys, even if you didn't figure all this, you know that point on the graph is the point 2040. The line crosses right at that point. So you would save $10 going with crosstown moving. Yes. Okay. So even without finding the rate of change and using the fee, we can know that that point is the point 2040, and so for 20 miles it would be $40. Okay? All right, let's turn our page over. We should have time to do one of these. So let's look at example 1. Your homework is going to be 4 through 9. So you're going to start under the place where it says practice some problem solving. But let's go ahead and look at this zoo one. A tiger in captivity is fed 13.5 pounds of food per day. There's my function. The graph shows the elephant's food per day. So can I see how much the elephant eats in one day without doing any math? How much? 125. Right. Okay. Compare the functions by comparing their rate of change. So I can say the elephant eats more per day because 125, what is it, pounds? Pounds is greater than 13.5 pounds. So you don't have to have an elaborate answer. You just have to show that you compared the daily amount of an elephant to the daily amount of a tiger. Okay? Pretty easy. It didn't say anything about y-intercepts on that one. Let's look at one more. Jewelry. You see one person's profit at a craft fair is represented by this function, and the other person's is in, this is the second person, is in the table. Okay? So this equation, let's put on our notebook paper, page 788, jewelry. So it says P equals 5B minus 15. So you want to interpret that as $5 per bracelet. But then this person evidently had to pay something up front because she's starting out $15 in the hole. So let's say she had to buy supplies. So you have to have an understanding of the equation when you start to talk about it. So it says P is the profit and B is the number of bracelets sold. Okay, so she's getting $5 for profits is in money, so you know this is money, $5 per bracelet, minus $15 for something. Maybe she had to rent the booth, or maybe she had to pay for supplies. But now let's look at the second person. What's happening in her function?
For every bracelet sold, she's getting $5.
Yeah, $5 per bracelet. Now, did she start out with any costs or anything? No, because if we go backwards on the table, 0, 0. So this would be the first person. The second person's function would look like what? Profit equals, yeah, just 5B, because she didn't have any additional costs or anything. So just $5 per bracelet. Okay? So what it says is compare their y-intercepts and their rate of change. So what's the y-intercept for this first person? What? Yeah, negative 15. She started out owing. This person's y-intercept was what? 0. Y'all are catching on. And then the rate of change for the first person is what? 5. And the rate of change for the second person? 5, yeah. So what does it say? It tells us to compare their y-intercepts and rate of change. So we can say both have a rate of change of $5, but the first person has a y-intercept of negative 15 and the second person is 0. Okay? How much will the first person make if he sells 30 bracelets? $30 times 5 would be 150. Minus 15, right, 135. All right, y'all work hard on this homework.